Welcome back, patreon.com/the Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your gaming news. I apologize for the lack of an episode last week. There was a technical issue, so I opted to go with a newsletter available on Patreon only. There wasn't any audio last week. What I discovered is that I still kind of like writing a little bit, so I am going to continue with the newsletter on Patreon, so be on the lookout for that. Also, be on the lookout for my new show called The Last Word with Derrick Lamon. That will be available also on Patreon first, and then on the free feeds a week later. Anyway, hopefully everybody's doing well. This is the Week in Gaming, of course. I'm going to start off with what seemed to be the big news for the week, at least one of the big pieces, and I talked about this on The Last Word. Hideki Nishino elevated to sole CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. Hiroki Totoki promoted to Sony CEO. Hermen Hulst is still, of course, the head of PlayStation Studios. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Nishino has been promoted to sole CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment with his new position effective on April 1st of 2025. This comes from a press release dropped this evening, and this was posted on the 28th, which also reveals that Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki is being promoted to president and CEO of the entire company. He replaces Kenshiro Ishida, who served as CEO of the company since April of 2018, succeeding Kazuo Hirai. Additionally, the SVP Finance, Corporate Development, and Strategy, Lin Tao, was being promoted to CFO. Just last year, it was announced that Nishino and Hermen Hulst would split the leadership of SIE between them after former CEO Jin Ryan's retirement. Thank God. With Hermen Hulst serving as the head of PlayStation Studios and Nishino overseeing hardware and tech. With this change, Nishino now oversees the entire SIE operation as well as leading the platform business group, while Hulst will remain in his role heading up PlayStation Studios specifically. Nishino has worked with Sony since 2000, previously serving as SVP Platform Experience Group. There's a quote directly from him, quote, "I am truly honored to take the helm at Sony Interactive Entertainment," he said. "Technology and creativity are two of our biggest strengths as we continue to focus on developing experiences that deliver entertainment for everyone. We will continue to grow the PlayStation community in new ways, such as IP expansion, while also delivering the best in technology innovation. I want to thank Hermen for his expertise and leadership as he continues his role as CEO, Studio Business Group. I am deeply grateful for the PlayStation community and their continued support, and I'm very excited for what the future holds." They needed this. They needed to shake some things up. They needed some checks and balances. Jim Ryan and Hermen Hulst operated PlayStation, over the last few years as if it was like their own little personal play toy. Hermen Hulst, in my opinion, gave a lot of favor to Guerrilla Games and to Horizon, that IP, because he came from Guerrilla Games and he was part of the team that created Horizon Zero Dawn. They're whoring that game out. I'm going to be the first to say it. Horizon Zero Dawn, and then Horizon Forbidden West for PlayStation 4 and 5. Okay, fine. Then you move to PC. No big deal. Then Horizon Call of the Mountain for PlayStation VR 2, which I heard was not a good game. Then there's this Horizon multiplayer we keep hearing about, and then a remaster for Horizon Zero Dawn, and that game just came out in 2017. And which I get it, because we got a remaster of The Last of Us 2, which came out in 2020. This seems to be the thing with PlayStation Studios. My biggest problem is what they did. When they announced that they were going to do 12 live service games, I said at that time, 12 is way too many. This just seems like a bad idea. You don't need that many games. 3, 4, maybe. And have some of the smaller studios, the newer studios work on stuff like that. You're taking big first party studios and trying to have them make live service games. I kind of wanted to see Factions or The Last of Us Online, whatever it was going to be, right? I'm okay with that. Sony bend all this time. They last shipped the game April of 2019. Days Gone came out the same day that Avengers Endgame came out, because I remember going to see Endgame in the theaters, coming home. By the time I got home, the countdown was over on my PlayStation 4 and I was able to play Days Gone, right? That's how long. And this whole time we're waiting. What has Sony been working on? What has Sony been working on? Then we find out it's like a military shooter. And then we find out the game has been canceled. The Concord disaster, Destruction All-Stars, the Twisted Metal game being canceled. 12 games was way too many. And I said this then, and I still stand by that now. And the fact of the matter is, myself and a lot of other people who said this are completely right. And the evidence is that those games were canceled. So, I got to tell you, I'm glad that Jim Ryan is gone. I feel very nostalgic for the days of Sean Layden and guys like that running PlayStation business. And I wish we could go back to that. These studios who are working on these games, Bluepoint, like the whole time, like Bluepoint's like, hey, we're working on original IP. It turns out they were working on a live service God of War game. What the fuck? Like, you can be Kratos, and then the next person could be Atreus, and Angrboda, and Baldur, and Thor, and like, how is that gonna work? How is that gonna work? So I got to tell you, I'm for one, am very, very happy that they made the change. I'm happy that Herman Hulse went home, and I want to see them pivot back to what made the PlayStation 4 one of the greatest generations of gaming. Those focused, narrative-driven, first-party, just titles that really knocked everybody's socks off. Like every time a PlayStation first-party game came out, we're like, when that Metacritic score came out and it was usually about 90 or above, we're like, yeah, this is what Sony does. This is par for the course. This PlayStation 5 generation just looks crazy compared to what we got last generation with the PlayStation 4. So I hope to hell that they figure things out. So to go a little deeper into that, there's some news that came out on the PlayStation blog. As many of our players are currently playing on PS5 and have shifted towards redeeming and accessing PS5 titles from the monthly games and game catalog benefit, PlayStation Plus is also evolving with this trend and will focus on offering PlayStation 5 titles through the monthly games and game catalog benefits starting January of 2026. As we shift to PS5, PS4 games will no longer be a key benefit and will only be occasionally offered for PlayStation Plus monthly games and game catalog starting January of 2026. We may still provide titles that can be playable on PS4 and PS5 consoles after this date. So it looks like they're going to start to phase out the PlayStation 4, much like they did with the PS3 games of the month, as you got further into the PlayStation 4 life cycle. People are all up in arms, and I don't see the reason because this is natural. You're progressing within the life of this console, and you better believe that Sony has already got heavy R&D going on the PlayStation 6. So yes, you don't need to be sitting there still focusing on giving out PlayStation 4 games. It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why people are so upset. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Let's focus on the next generation. Again, the PlayStation 6 has to absolutely be in research and development at this moment. So why anybody would still care about PlayStation 4 games? Not that there aren't a lot of great PlayStation 4 games, but it's time to turn the page. We are 5 years into the life of the PlayStation 5. We should not still be concerned about games releasing on the PlayStation 4. Anybody that tells you that does not understand business, right? Nintendo's not going to phase out Switch games when the Switch 2 launches later this year, but at some point within the next 3 to 4 years, you're going to start to see less and less titles be released for the Nintendo Switch. That's just the long and short of things. So this is not a big surprise to me, and I don't think it's that big of a deal, and I'm not going to sit here and fret over it and complain and bitch and moan or anything like that, because why the fuck would I? I don't know. Also, PlayStation says we are thrilled to announce that MLB The Show 25 will launch on March 18th on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch. The game will not be on platform subscription services in 2025. Early access begins on March 14th for anyone who purchases the digital deluxe edition. Mark your calendars for a first look at our first gameplay trailer, which will be revealed February 4th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, San Diego Studio, and MLB The Show social channels. So, for those of you who have enjoyed playing MLB The Show on Xbox consoles, you're going to have to pay for it now. A lot of people played it because it was in Game Pass, and that's not going to happen this year. It's not going to be in PS Plus. It's not going to be in Game Pass. Sometime you can expect these games. I tell people this. If there's a sports game that you really like and you don't want to pay for it in launch and you can afford to wait, you can afford to wait. Generally what happens is when MLB The Show. So when Major League Baseball's regular season winds down, they get into the playoffs, you're going to start to see that game appear in subscription services or like a PlayStation Plus game of the month or something like that. You will see Madden end up in Xbox Game Pass once we get around the NFL playoffs or the Super Bowl or something like that. I haven't seen college football be put in the Game Pass yet, which is actually kind of interesting. And that may say that maybe Madden won't go there this year, but this has usually been a trend. But it's very interesting that they're not going to put MLB The Show on Game Pass this year. I don't, because you have to keep in mind that Major League Baseball handed down the mandate to PlayStation and said, hey, you're going to start making this game for other platforms, not just PlayStation consoles. And Sony's like, well, why do we do that? Major League Baseball is like, because if you don't, then we'll take the license away from you. We'll give it to somebody else. Sony had no choice but to play ball, or else they would have lost the license. It's interesting because maybe you take away the exclusive license. Maybe you grant multiple companies a license to do it. Maybe 2K Sports starts to make a baseball sim again. Their baseball game wasn't bad. I remember they were actually the first one to use the analog sticks to swing the bat, which your timing had to be really, really fucking good doing that. But again, it's just really strange because ever since Major League Baseball handed down that mandate, you were able to play MLB The Show on the Xbox console. So now, I don't know. I want to see what those Xbox player numbers look since this is going to happen, because there is a group of people who basically are like, yeah, put it in Game Pass and I'll play it. If it's not in Game Pass, I'm not playing it. Now for that reason, that has almost wrecked Xbox business, not in totality, but it has put a dent in their business. And that kind of leads us directly into our next story. And this comes from VideoGamesChronicle.com. Microsoft was the number one publisher in games in the world the last month. Nearly $50 billion was spent on Xbox games across Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox in December. $465 million was spent on Microsoft games over December, making the company the world's biggest publisher across PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. That is according to data from Ampere, and includes sales of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, which is one of the biggest games over the holiday period. It also includes the release of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which launched in December. But it was Call of Duty that delivered the majority of the success. Call of Duty HQ, which includes Black Ops 6, attracted 38 million monthly users in November of 2024. I, for one, was playing a lot of Call of Duty at that point, not going to lie. Ampere says, which set the game up strongly for December. Microsoft has been putting increased focus on its multi-format strategy, and 64% of consumer spending on Microsoft titles in December was on PlayStation formats driven by Call of Duty. More on that in a second. Ampere says that Microsoft was comfortably ahead of second place Electronic Arts, which generated $366 million over the same period. EA's performance was driven by EA Sports FC 25, which delivered big numbers, albeit smaller than they were last year. Ampere data also revealed that 30 million hours were spent playing Fortnite on Christmas Day. Congrats and happy Merry Christmas to all those people who got new consoles for Christmas, especially those kids who, set it up, connected it to the internet, and immediately downloaded Fortnite to play with their friends, from school and all around the world, and cousins and stuff like that. Gaming brings people together, whether you like it or not. I don't play that much Fortnite anymore. I may play once every 3 or 4 months or something like that, but a lot of people still play that game heavily. My household was very, very active on Fortnite. So the average Fortnite gamer spent 2.3 hours in the game on Christmas Day. 20 million hours were also spent on Call of Duty games during December. These two big talking points of the month were Marvel Rivals, which brought in 29 million monthly active users over December, while Path of Exile 2 generated 148 million, the firm estimates. Both of these successes made December a big month for Chinese publishers, which are growing their influence in the global games industry. There were 4 key Chinese published games that drove the numbers last month, including Marvel Rivals from NetEase, Path of Exile 2 from Tencent, Infinity Nikki from Paper Games, Delta Force also from Tencent. As a result of these titles, Chinese game publishers Tencent, number 5, and NetEase, number 9 in the world, entered Ampere's monthly rankings for the first time. Quote, the growing global scale of major Chinese publishers adds a new dynamic to the console and PC gaming markets, and inevitably means that added competition in what is an already hyper-competitive industry, says Ampere Research Director Piers Harding-Rolls. According to recent NPD data, PS5 console sales are tracking ahead of the PS4 in the US, while the Xbox Series console sales lag behind the Xbox One, highlighting the widening gaps between machines. Last week, Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer did the media rounds discussing where Xbox console hardware fits within its new, more open approach to multi-platform development. Phil basically said, guess what? No game is off limits, and any game can go to any platform. Sorry, not platinum, any platform going forward. And well, we are finding out the hard way that is 100% a real thing. And the reason I say that is this comes from Forza.net, the official Forza website. You can today wishlist Forza Horizon 5 for the PlayStation 5. Yes, that's right. The news broke today. The Horizon Festival welcomes a new community of players with nearly 900 cars available in the game, over 40 thematic game updates, 2 expansions, and so much more content. Our team is excited to announce that this spring, PlayStation 5 players will be able to explore Mexico's beautiful roads and experience the Horizon Festival for the first time as we are officially launching Forza Horizon 5 on PS5. I'm going to pause. Forza Horizon has overtaken Forza Motorsport, and anybody that tells you otherwise is out of their mind. More people look forward to Forza Horizon than they the standard Forza Motorsport. When it comes to those true driving sims, I think Gran Turismo has Forza Motorsport beat. I'm not going to lie to you. Best racing game is Forza Horizon. It's not even close. There was rumors that this game was going to go to PlayStation a while back and that they held it back for some reason. Now we know that those rumors were 100% true. The PlayStation 5 version of Forza Horizon 5, developed by Panic Button in partnership with Turn 10 Studios and Playground Games, will have the same content as the Xbox and PC releases of the game. Previously released card packs as well as the Hot Wheels and Rally Adventure expansions will also be available for purchase. I'm going to pause right here. My one question is this. Is this game going to look and run better on PlayStation 5 hardware, also on PlayStation 5 Pro hardware? How is it going to compare to the Xbox version and the PC version? That is the big question. That's the real question here. How this game will look and run on the competitor's hardware. Got me really, really curious about that. Article goes on to say, we are excited to see Forza Horizon 5 community grow with new players on PS5. We can't wait to see the creativity and skills these new creators, builders, and racers will bring to our vibrant community. In addition to bringing Forza Horizon 5 to PS5, we're working on a special new free content update for all platforms. Horizon Realms will give players the chance to explore a curated collection of some of the community's favorite previously released evolving worlds alongside some other surprises. Stay tuned to our channels for more details soon. You can wishlist Forza Horizon 5 on the PlayStation Store today and stay informed about the updates and release times. If you already own the game on another platform, share the news with your friends in the PS5 community and tell them to get ready to join your convoys, as crossplay will be available for all Forza Horizon 5 players across Xbox consoles, PC, and PS5. We look forward to welcoming new players to the Horizon Festival. We are sure Forza Horizon 5 veterans will share their experience, tips, and tricks to make beginners feel right at home as they start their adventures. I wonder if there's any plans to bring it to the Switch 2 when that launches. I really, really wonder. That would be very, very interesting. That's something I would really like to see. Even if they don't say it, this is every indication that Microsoft is now a full-time third-party publisher. I'm sorry. This is very strange. This is very, very strange. It seems that nothing that they did to try to bolster the Series X and S consoles has worked for them. And again, I said this the last time, like people were asking me, what did I think? And I said, I think that, I don't think it's about the power, because when they talked about the T-flops, when the specs were revealed for the Series X and then the PS5's specs were revealed. And then Microsoft's issue is that I get it. You're going to talk about your competitors in the office. That's going to happen anywhere you go, right? The Lakers are talking about the Celtics somewhere and vice versa. The Cardinals and Cubs are talking about each other and vice versa. The Blues and the Blackhawks, the Canadian and the Bruins. It's competition. You're going to talk about your direct competitor. So Microsoft is having these conversations, and when the PS5 specs come out, it's like, oh, we got the better product. Phil literally says in an email, I think after finding out today, we have the better product. It's easy to see. and then you try to acquire a publisher, which you were successful in doing, but you had to go through the courts to get it done. And then all of those emails, all of those documents were leaked. And it's like, oh, I think we have the better hardware. Well, where did that get you? Because the PlayStation 5 is still outselling the Xbox Series consoles 2-1. And the Xbox One didn't sell in gangbusters. The Series X and S are actually trailing behind the Xbox One at this point in the Xbox One's life cycle. So you really kind of start to look around like, you spent $80 billion for what? And now your best games, your platform titles that really build the Xbox brand, you have to put on your competitor's console. So now that Halo collection that people keep saying is rumored for the PlayStation, Forza Horizon 5 is coming. Nothing is off limits, which Phil told us that. But this is just crazy to see it in real time. So the most interesting thing about all of this, the documents are out. We're starting to find out more and more about what's going on with the revenue over at Xbox. And so the Q2 gaming revenue, so Xbox Q2 fiscal year 25 gaming revenue was down 7% year over year, but Xbox Game Pass still grew. Xbox content and services revenue was up 2% even as gaming revenue declined overall. So content and services would be Game Pass. Only a 2% rise. So my favorite quote for Xbox in last year was, they got to get that money back in blood. Satya Nadella said to Phil, I gave you a blank check and you spent $80 billion and our investors want their money back. And we're not selling these consoles and we're not selling games because we created an ecosystem where you paid a monthly fee and we gave you our foundational titles for a subscription fee. We need to get our money back. And I don't want to hear about exclusives. I have to get this money back or else these people are they're going to have my fucking head. Microsoft shared details on the company's financial results for Q2 fiscal year 25 on Wednesday, revealing that gaming revenue was down 7% year over year for the quarter ending December 31st of 2025. Quarter did see Xbox content and services revenue up 2%, to which the company credits growth in Xbox Game Pass. Xbox hardware revenue declined 29% year over year, a 29% decline in hardware sales. Microsoft, they've been very forthcoming about the fact that their next console is an R&D. At this point, it's 70-30 in my eyes that we actually see that console. And I don't think there's going to be two different SKUs. I don't think they'll do that this next time. But if they decided, hey, we're not going to do a console anymore, we're going to go the Sega route, I would not be surprised. A 29% decline in console revenue year to year. That is insane. During the earnings call, accompanying the financial results, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella noted that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 was the best-selling game of the quarter on Xbox and PlayStation, while also highlighting rave reviews for Bethesda Softworks and Machine Games, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which is a great game, by the way, which has crossed 4 million players so far after launching in December 2024. Remember, that's coming to PlayStation 5 this spring. Elsewhere in the company, Microsoft Cloud saw revenue of $40.9 billion, up 21% year over year, which Microsoft says is driven by Azure commitments from OpenAI. Overall, Microsoft saw $69.6 billion in revenue for the quarter, with operating income of $31.7 billion, up 17% year over year. So everything else in Microsoft is increasing except for Xbox hardware sales. That is a tough pill to swallow if you're an investor. If you sit on the Microsoft board of directors, they thought about killing off the Xbox and then they decided to acquire those publishers. They're selling less consoles now. If you don't think those conversations are being had in those boardrooms, you're absolutely out of your mind. I can promise you that. I can truthfully promise you that. Now, as far as the Xbox Series S compatibility requirements, it is not going anywhere. It's currently a mandatory requirement for developers to ensure that their games are compatible with both Series X and Series S in order to release them for Microsoft's consoles. Some developers have argued that having to cater to Microsoft's entry-level console limits the potential of current-gen games. In December of 2023, Baldur's Gate 3 received a delayed release on Xbox Series X and S after Microsoft allowed Larian Studios to launch the Series S version without split-screen co-op, a mode it had been struggling to get working sufficiently on the lower-powered console. And this month, Black Myth Wukong developer GameScience blamed the Series S console for the game's no-show on Xbox platforms. However, in a new interview with Destin Legary, Microsoft's gaming boss claimed that having to develop games for Series S could be an advantage for studios targeting a variety of platforms, including handheld gaming systems. Asked about the potential of dropping or relaxing Xbox Series S requirements, Spencer said, quote, "In a way, I think about it in almost exactly the opposite way right now. With the rise of handheld PCs and even the introduction so far of the Switch 2, as developers, we're building on more devices from lower powered. Because they're battery powered devices all the way through things that plug into the wall. I actually think we have a real advantage because we've been targeting S for quite a while, that our games have been built and they're portable across many different specs. So when we look at something like a Steam Deck or ROG Ally or something, we've got the Series S version of the games that are more tailored to the device specs, a lot of devices that are frankly getting introduced right now, and I think that helps us." Spencer confirmed in November that Xbox was working on a handheld gaming prototype of its own, but claimed the launch of any potential device was still years away. He added in a newly published interview, quote, "And frankly, the scalability of engines today allows them to scale from ray tracing enabled multi-$1,000 graphics cards on desktop PCs all the way through a handheld battery powered device. So for me, S has been helpful in our portfolio. I'm playing Indiana Jones on S and it looks great. So like it's definitely capable of playing current generation games in a great way. But most of your games that are going to be out there are going to be supporting these different devices. And the S spec of what it is actually maps pretty well to the devices that we're seeing introduced right now. So I think it is actually an important design point for teams going forward, that kind of power performance mix that you see in the Series S. In the same interview, Spencer reiterated that there are no red lines stopping any Xbox game from appearing on other platforms, which is why we see Forza Horizon 5, which is a Xbox foundational title, going to PlayStation 5. So PlayStation is getting two major Xbox gaming studios games, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle and Forza Horizon 5. I would imagine that Forza is coming sometime in the spring as well. It's going to be interesting. Jeff Keighley just announced that today, I think the date for Summer Games Fest is June 6th. It is going to be very interesting to watch the Microsoft show this year, because I think you're going to see when these new games are announced, there's going to be a PlayStation 5 logo at the end, along with the Game Pass logo, the Xbox Series X and S logos, the Steam or the Microsoft Windows Store. You're going to see a PlayStation 5 logo there more often than not. This is a crazy time. This is a crazy, crazy time. I just never really thought that we would see this happen. I got to be completely honest with you. This is absolutely insane. But more people get to play different games. I don't know. Speaking of Summer Game Fest, the 2025 plans are revealed. As I said, Jeff Keighley's annual showcase will take place on June 6th this year with a business event. The 2-hour Summer Game Fest live kickoff show will take place on June 6th from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and its usual venue of YouTube Theater in Los Angeles, California, with, quote, spectacular new video game announcements, surprises, and reveals. This is interesting because last year he did say, don't expect anything huge. He told people to temper their expectations, and then when we saw it, everybody was like, what is this bullshit? The Game Awards weren't great last year, I'm not going to lie. But he's saying spectacular announcements this year, so we shall see. Showcase will be followed by the annual Play Days invite-only media event, which will run from June 7th through 9th in downtown Los Angeles, produced by I Am 8-Bit. New for 2025, Summer Game Fest is a business-to-business event curated by former GameIndustry.biz boss and regular VGC contributor Christopher Dring. Featuring producer Jeff Keighley, organizers say this event will delve into some of the key changes, challenges, and opportunities facing the global video game industry, as well as celebrate the cultural impact and importance of video games as the most powerful form of entertainment in the world. Summer Game Fest adds that its business-to-business event will feature thought leaders from the gaming industry and beyond, bringing multiple industries together on one stage for insightful discussions. Public tickets for the Summer Game Fest live show will go on sale this spring. Fans can sign up at summergamefest.com for updates on the show and how to attend in person. Since the pandemic, Summer Game Fest has established itself as one of the industry's annual tentpoles after the Entertainment Software Association confirmed that E3, which began in the 1990s, won't be coming back. Sad day for E3 when that announcement happened. The pandemic did it in. We're going to be completely honest. I think Sony pulling out in 2019 didn't help. And then the pandemic in 2020, they tried to come back in 21. It didn't really work out. So, I mean, here we are. Here we are. Really quickly, where are we at on that? The Sims 1 and 2 are reportedly being re-released with all expansions this week. EA has never released the original Sims game digitally, but that's set to change. EA is set to release The Sims and The Sims 2 this week as part of its 25th anniversary celebration, it's claimed. So all you Sims players out there, you know who I'm talking to. Citing a source familiar with the plans, Kotaku says the publisher will be bringing back the first 2 games in the Sims series by the end of January. Earlier this month, the official X account for The Sims posted a short video showing a roadmap of events designed to celebrate The Sims' 25th anniversary. Listed on the roadmap is an item called Nostalgia Now, alongside the date January 27th through the 31st. So that's coming up. Actually, that's right now. If you're if you're listening to this on its normal time slot on Patreon, that has happened. On Monday, the account also posted a message saying "Be right back," accompanied by an animation showing the action menu from The Sims 2, followed by the colored square background for the box art for The Sims. If true, the re-releases will be big news for the longtime Sims fans who have had problems running the older titles on modern PC hardware. The original games proved particularly tricky to play in the modern era because it was never released digitally. Meanwhile, players will have to find the original game disc from 2000, find a disk drive for their PC, and search for user-created patches designed to get it running on today's hardware. If EA is indeed planning on re-releasing both The Sims and The Sims 2, that should make it significantly easier to install and play both games on Windows 10 and 11 specs and resolutions. The report also claims that each game will come with all of their original expansion packs included, but it's not clear if these also include previously licensed packs such as H&M fashion stuff and IKEA home stuff packs released for The Sims 2. So if you're one of those people who goes crazy over The Sims, this should make you very, very happy. Nostalgia is a big thing in gaming, to be completely honest with you. So I think this is pretty cool. I'm happy when anybody gets to play the game of their choice. Even if I don't like the game, if it's a game that you really, really love, I'm super stoked for you if you get to play and enjoy that game. So shout out to everybody over there. Lastly, I would have actually put this in grain of salt at the top of the show, but I totally forgot about it. We shall see if it's true. This comes from thegamepost.com. Sony is reportedly developing a new God of War game set in Egyptian mythology. If you remember in God of War, the reboot, there was one area where Kratos went to and it looked like a lot of Egyptian themed pottery and stuff like that, I'll say. And you just go in there with the blades of chaos and the axe and tear shit up. A lot of people have been saying, Kratos is going to Egypt next. This could be it. The new reports suggest Sony PlayStation is working on a new AAA God of War game set in Egyptian mythology. The God of War franchise is one of the most beloved in gaming, with a history spanning decades and a fan base that only continues to grow. After the release of 2018's God of War and expanding the Norse saga with Ragnarok in 2022, Sony Santa Monica delivered not just critical acclaim, but a deeply emotional narrative that resonated with players. When they told, when all the previews started coming out, hey, I cried within the first 10 minutes. I'm like, what are they crying about? And then I played it, and my dog passed away early January of 2020. Everything went crazy. My dog, and then Kobe died, and then my parents moved. So when you play the opening hour of God of War Ragnarok and Fenrir is dying and Atreus has to accept this, I'm like, I get it. When Greg Miller was talking about it, I didn't know what he was talking about. And then when I played it, I was like, oh, that's right, Portillo just died. So I was like, this is what they were all talking about. So if you had a dog or a cat, any pet or a loved one, but specifically if you had a pet and you lost them, I literally had to pause the game and put down the controller and kind of take it in. And I was like, this is what everybody was talking about. If you've ever lost a pet, that moment would resonate with you. And then in the end, when Brock dies and it turns Sindri really, really cold and they have the Viking funeral for him, that stuff resonates with you. Anyway, with the Norse saga seemingly complete, fans have been wondering what lies ahead for Kratos. Now it seems we finally have a hint about the next mainline God of War installment could be. Now, keep in mind, Cory Barlog is actually working on a different game for Sony Santa Monica. I think we're going to see that obviously first. According to a new report, Sony is likely working on a brand new God of War game set in Egyptian mythology. This information comes from Daniel Rickman, a well-known source for insider scoops and entertainment, who shared the news through a post on his Patreon. Rickman revealed that Sony is currently casting Middle Eastern actors for an unknown AAA title. He added that the project is likely to be the next God of War that explores Egyptian mythology. The post reads, quote, Sony is casting Middle Eastern actors for an unknown AAA game, which is likely to be the next God of War that explores Egyptian mythology. Thanks, Visceral. Interestingly, this isn't the first time the idea of God of War exploring Egyptian mythology has come up. In the making of God of War 2018 documentary, creative director Cory Barlog revealed that the studio initially considered setting the game in Egyptian mythology before ultimately choosing the Norse path. While this is exciting news, it's worth noting that Sony has not confirmed any of this information. Until we hear something official, we suggest taking everything with a grain of salt. Again, it should have been at the top of the show. This comes after Sony canceled a live service God of War game in development by Blue Point Games. Project had been in works for 2 years before being shelved. On a more positive note, fans of the series can also look forward to the upcoming God of War TV adaptation, which is currently in development at Amazon Prime. I think people responded really well to Assassin's Creed Origins. That was the first Assassin's Creed game that I was like, okay, I want to play this. I'm going to buy this. People responded well. There were little hints in God of War 2018. And now we find out that they were actually going to go to Egypt first, and then they pivoted to the Norse path. So I think it lines up perfectly. I think that this is going to be Kratos on his own. I don't think we see Mimir. I don't think that Baldur's mom, I can't remember. I don't think she's there. I think that Loki is going around, aka Atreus is going around doing what the path that was set up, for him and the giants and whatnot. I don't think we're going to see him or Angrboda. But I like this idea. I'm all for it. If anybody can pull it off, I believe it's Sony Santa Monica. I'm still excited to see what Cory Barlog is working on. So hopefully we find out about that pretty soon as well. But I'm 100% all for this, and I hope that this is true. And I hope they find something for Blue Point Games to do. I really do, because it just drives me crazy that they were working on that for 2 years and they pulled the plug. But again, I was not in favor of those live service games. What this tells me, though, with the acquisition of Bungie a few years back, remember, Bungie were the ones who apparently said to Sony, yeah, The Last of Us Online looks good, but probably won't make any money off of it, or whatever the fuck they said, something to that effect. Did Bungie have something to do with this as well? The acquisition of Bungie, even though it came at a discount, I think it was like $3 million versus what Microsoft paid for Bethesda and paid for Activision Blizzard King. That's a discount. But no, I don't think that Bungie Activision has actually paid dividends at all. And I think it was probably a really, really bad move, in my humble opinion. That's just my thoughts. I don't know. What do you guys think? Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I'm going to go ahead and put a bow on this thing. I'm going to end this like I always do. Believe in yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course, nobody else will believe in you. As always, my name is Derrick Lamon Jackson. And ladies and gentlemen, that is my time. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.